everybody, I'm Philip, and today we are going to watch Doom Patrol Season 1, Episode 5. When we last left off, we had been introduced to the cult of the Unwritten Book, who I think is more like a religion and not a cult, because you can actually see their god. I kind of went on a tangent in the last episode too. As of this recording, I have not gotten around to editing it, so I don't know how much I left in on that one. But no, in seriousness, in the last one we were introduced to the cult. As said, we were introduced to the chaos magician Kip, whose magic I really did like. I liked his magic a lot. I also found out that this came out around the same time the X-Men did, and that kind of blew my mind. I thought for sure this was a product of the 80s or the 90s, that it was some kind of like counterculture answer to the Fantastic Four or the X-Men. But to find out that it came out in the same era as the X-Men, holy crap. So my initial, again, as I've said in past videos, I'm not a comic book guy. I don't read comics. When I did as a kid, it was like Tales from the Crypt, stuff like that. But never like superhero stuff. So I don't know timelines. I don't know. I went into this not even knowing it was a comic book. That's how in the dark I am. So by no means do I know anything about the lore or anything like that. But to find out that it came out in the same era kind of blew my mind. And yeah, wow. So to me, it was kind of like ahead of its time then, especially if it's, from what I've read in comments and whatnot, that it is much weirder in the comic book. So that I don't doubt that at all. But we are watching the translation to screen. So let's get to it. Episode 5, where we find out what is going on with the cult of the Unwritten Book. Right now, it seems like they have won. I have a hypothesis about what might happen, and the only way to find out is to watch it. So without further ado, let's get into it. So sure, say time travel, fuck missile. Time travel, fuck missile. Aw. Damn.
Say that again?
Your mother sucks cocks in hell.
You're gonna rot in here, Jane.
Nice exorcist.
No matter how many times you try to get away. Remember that.
Oh.
Need people for cheese. We can make cheese. How hard can it be? Isn't it just milk and fungus? I mean, the ancient Egyptians figured it out. I knew it will. No one can stop the will of God.
How do we stop this?
I told you. That's it.
So
It's over.
according to the narrator,
We could have stopped.
Mr. Nobody, he's all in on this. So my hypothesis is wrong.
Save the bloody
I wasn't a lousy bitch for once. Turns out a snake can change her stripes. But it doesn't matter.
Well, for God's sakes, don't get yourself raptured or anything.
Yeah.
He's a boy.
It's one boy versus 7.5 billion people.
All right, how long do we have until the world's...
Kay. That is your name, isn't it? Aren't you a very small and pretty thing?
What the fuck?
No, this cannot be the end. I refuse. I haven't even been in the last 2 episodes.
We can stop it!
Maybe I was right.
The Decreator is a product of faith, born from years upon years of blind, unwavering belief. Faith like that can only be fought with faith alike. I know exactly who we need and exactly where to look. Jane.
Jane.
First, we need to find a very specific version of her.
Hello, I'm Rita Farr.
Something smells like dusty queefs.
Oh, Jane. Dire, incorrigible Jane. Tell me about Kay Chalice. And filled with monsters. Tell me. Did your monster have a name?
Did yours? Was her name Mother? Acute narcissism, growing into an impulse. The one that makes you want to take that pen and jam it into your eye over and over again.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I'm the monster.
Who the hell are you?
Oh, me? I'm the burning bush in the desert. The filicidal presence on the mountain peak.
Nice.
Elliot!
I'm still alive.
Elliot. So it's the end of the world. But we have time.
Aww.
How did you get here and what happened to Mr. Nobody?
Don't ask him about Mr. Nobody. Or mention his name.
I know this is hard to take in. And I can't imagine what you've been going through for this last 48 hours. But we have a plan.
In order to conjure our grotesque messiah, the Recreator.
The Recreator.
Who was that? I thought you knew me.
No. You thought you knew me.
Friend again.
I don't like Hammerhead's one-liners. They're so...
Standing on two legs, working with the enemy.
That may be by design, though.
The cult will help you find your purpose.
So suddenly it's okay to play both sides of the line? Work with the evil?
You are so far up your own ass.
No, what? I know the difference. What is that? There it is. Stolen from me, like everything else around here. That's Nernheim? Never mind.
Sometimes I wonder if Larry Trainor died years ago and this is some fucked up afterlife.
Yeah, I thought the same thing.
Isn't that a dead giveaway to anyone who might be hunting the book?
Yeah. The words should be invisible.
If I had something that was going to stop the world from ending, I'd want to hide it. You know, from bad guys.
You will be the one to come find me, to remind me of what must be done.
Yes, Dr. Harrison was a perfect creature.
Oh. Yeah, stop dancing. The eye is there.
Now, I know what you're going to say. I haven't changed one bit. Chalk it up to tomato pie. I just traveled all the way from Jersey to Barcelona, cut open a priest, climbed inside him, and landed in a snow globe. And now I'm standing here talking to a freaking robot man. I don't think I'm mistaken.
There you are.
You think that you can spit in the face of God, lady? The only God I worship is Springsteen. And I spat in his face twice.
Damn.
What's going on?
I think it's a staring contest.
Hmm.
May we never meet again.
Likewise, old friend.
Ain't no way I'm letting them take you again.
A deal's a deal, Vic.
Hmm.
You told me I could say goodbye!
The kid took out a gun.
Please.
Resolute to do anything he could to save the chief. But Cyborg didn't even realize he'd left his arm cannon charging. Goodbye, Victor Stone.
Oh!
We all know how dangerous that can be, so...
Lovely evening, isn't it? Now, who do I have the honor of meeting tonight?
I have one more task for you, Dr. Harrison. Once the apocalypse has been neutralized, a flicker of a name.
What do you need me to look for? What the fuck is the Doom Patrol?
So, my hypothesis was indeed correct. I'm proud of that. It only made sense to me that Mr. Nobody would be like, nah, they can't end like this. You know, he hasn't had his vengeance or his fun yet. But it wasn't what I expected. I don't know what I expected. But I do like the idea of the book, the cult of the unwritten book versus the cult of the rewritten book, and the decreator versus the recreator, and the fact that they go back in time to manipulate time. Where we meet another one of Jane's personalities, Jane being one herself, Dr. Harrison, who has the power of suggestion. And like a therapist on steroids, if you will. And I like that character a lot. But uses her and her power of suggestion to create this cult. I was amused that the cult was born in the psychiatric hospital. I was expecting like a worldwide kind of infection. They decided they make the rewritten book. But they worked together and decided it's going to be on a dog. And it's going to be invisible. Which is smart. And the only way to see it is to ring a bell. To make the words appear. I like the eye appearing and then all the stuff comes back that the decreator had taken away. We don't see Elliot though, so that makes me wonder. So I kind of hope that is a like a back pocket storyline for later, because I think there's a lot of life left in the story between Elliot and Rita. Poor Rita, man, like. Finally doing good, not being, you know, a vain, selfish person for once. I forget what her wording was, but, you know, she said, you know, she's just trying to be a good person. She couldn't help him. And that was such a, like, whatever you want to do, we'll go do it. Whatever you want to, like, food or place or anything, we'll experience it. And then he just gets Thanos'd. And, so that was sad. But yeah, in addition to meeting Dr. Harrison, we also find out that the original personality, who Jane really is Kay Chalice. And yeah, like she was, of course, as we know, as well as we knew going in, that she was abused in these psychiatric facilities. But this seems to be where we picked up with her, seems to be already having fractured, I think, is how I'm reading it. Not knowing the lore, not knowing anything about the story. So it's like, did she already have the personalities before from something else, and then she went somewhere else to get them weaponized with all these powers? Or did something happen to her that she got the personalities and they were weaponized because they were injecting her with something, and she started lighting on fire like that one when she gets big and starts throwing the fireballs like that. It'd be interesting to see where that goes. We also had more build with Larry, and like I said in previous episodes, it's still that slow build, and I like that. We're taking these baby steps with each character, you know, between the relationship between Cliff and Jane and all the personalities there, especially Hammerhead, who is, you know, obviously the defensive one. She's trying to protect everyone else. I did say during the episode that I really don't like Hammerhead's one-liners because they're kind of like, you know, it's kind of like, I just like, I'm not afraid of you, you should be afraid of me. Like, it's always that like reverse wordplay with her, it feels like. But at the same time, I understand it because, again, she's the defensive. You know, she's the walls that are built up around everyone else. Just like when she told Cliff, you know, at least I have purpose. You know, what the fuck are you here for? Good line, yeah, but and kind of true. But the same can be said for Larry or Rita. The only people that seem to have purpose are Niles and Jane. But what is Hammerhead's purpose other than to protect everyone? Like, what is the purpose? What is, other than that, what are you doing? You know, you're just existing like everyone else. So sometimes the little, like, the barbs that she fires back fall a little flat for me, but it's not something that I hate or dislike. It's just, I get it in respect to the character, that it makes sense coming from her that she would react and talk like that. And then to make the cult of the rewritten book, Mr. Nobody and Niles had to work together. Didn't see that coming. It was amusing that Mr. Nobody was torturing Niles, but just like spinning him in a circle over and over. But yeah, they decided to work together, and Mr. Nobody, like I said before, he has his power is ridiculous. And we're only getting glimpses of it. Went into the past to interfere with the past, to plant this idea, to be the narrator in the past, to talk to Dr. Harrison. I just like that his narration can be heard by everyone else, especially at the end, before Niles gets taken back. Everyone is like looking around like, what is, you know, that kind of thing. I think it's cool. I like that because usually the narrator is the invisible, the invisible voice, and in this, it's very much visible and heard. But to backtrack to the baby steps, I mentioned Cliff and Jane. We also have Rita, trying to become a better person, trying to do the right thing, even if she doesn't know what the right thing is, she's following her gut, her instinct. And then when Elliot did disappear, get Thanos, and she just sags because emotions and stress do that to her. Which, of course, I didn't know that in the beginning. So I was like, why aren't you turning into a blob? Now I understand. And then you have the struggle of Victor wanting to be his own person and be outside of his dad. And, there at the end when, he's charging his hand cannon and it's in slow motion because Mr. Nobody is manipulating everything. And it goes off and it just destroys, his arm. And he's saying, he's basically saying, no, let me do this. He wants to do it himself. He wants to fix it himself. But it looks like it's bad. So Cliff then, hits the SOS button and it gets it fixed and, he's regenerating and all that because of the science from Star Labs. And his dad's calling him and he declines the call and he's emotional and he's disappointed in himself because he couldn't do it. He wants to be the hero. And there was a really cool conversation between Victor and Niles where Victor says to Niles, it's okay to play both sides of the line because for Victor, there's absolute good and absolute evil. He wants to be absolute good and all the bad guys and villains are absolute evil. But as I've talked about before, there's always that shades of gray. There's always shades of gray. It's going to be hard for Victor to come to terms with that, especially being in the realm of where does his father lie on that spectrum. He wants to believe his father is also absolute good. But if there's a spectrum, absolute good, absolute evil, he's floating. Because as I've said, his dad doesn't seem to really be his dad. More of a scientist than his dad. And as I've said many times, that he just sees Victor as a commodity. And then the baby steps again with Larry, talking to Niles and saying, I feel like a failure. I feel like everyone around me just gets hurt and burned by me in the end. Which good, not good that he feels like that, but good that he is finally verbally taking ownership because he had this idea of being the hero. And I said before, he's not at all. He's a very selfish. He wanted his cake and eat it too. He wanted cake and he wanted pie. He wanted all the dessert. And, when the cavity became too big, this is his lesson he needs to learn. And that is accountability. That thing where, he's the captain of his own ship. He's the reason that his ship sank in the end. And I keep saying I like these baby steps because the slow burn is going to make it even more worth it when it ignites. I like the world building we're doing and the character development that's going on. And I thought that the way to win this battle made sense. It was cool to put myself into the lore and be like, if I was writing this, how would I resolve it? I wouldn't be able to do that 4 episodes ago, on the first one. It's not so much pride. Like, ha 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 ha, I'm so smart. It's just more like, hey, cool. I understand that the rules of this world are as such where this could happen. The need to control the narrative that Mr. Nobody has, which is, I think, going to be his fatal flaw in the end. I don't know how they defeat him because holy crap, he needs to be the centerpiece. And there was something bigger than him going on and it could ruin everything for him. So naturally, he's going to want to make that not happen, and poor Cloverton, holy crap. They have to be like, what the hell? We need to get out of here. So yeah, he could suck in all of Cloverton with the vortex thing and put it inside of a donkey, but he simply couldn't go back into the real world and poke the thing in the eye with I don't know. I don't know the rules. I'm learning this as I go. So yeah, but let's go to the notes and see if there's anything that I have not talked about already.
Philip's notes.
So when the eye in the sky appeared, I wondered to myself, how many religious people around the world would think that was God? Legitimately, that was like if we were in this plane of reality and a giant eye appeared in the sky, looking down on everybody, everyone's going to think it's God, and people are disappearing. So people are getting raptured. It was also said that in the episode. So wouldn't that be crazy if the idea of an all-seeing God and rapture was in fact Cult of the Unwritten Book and the Decreator? What if your God that you revere and worship was in fact something that was going to destroy creation? I revel too much in it, don't I? I'm sorry. I like the idea because, again, we struggled with, we didn't struggle, sorry, Victor, Cyborg, struggles with this idea sort of absolute good, of nobility. We have that notion of, between him and Kip, where it's one boy versus 7.5 billion people. Why is the saving of one okay to sacrifice everyone else? You know, why is sparing his life worth this, but if we kill him, it saves this? Again, it's part of Cyborg Victor's development as a character, seeing that not everything is as, you know, good and evil as one might think. Morality is a tricky thing. One could say in the right hands is a great thing, but I would say, what are the right hands? Somebody's moral compass might point a certain way, but that does not mean that's the way it should be pointing. And then I think that, but that doesn't mean that I'm right either. So I think morality is a dangerous thing. I think all too often people take that as an absolute when it's not. It's not. In the end, morality is just like societal shaped opinion from your own worldview. Most people's morality is good. You know, you try and be a good person and do the right thing and treat everybody, you know, with respect and all that stuff. And other people's morality is tainted and nasty and, you know, Karen. So no, you cannot speak to my manager. I like the line, "What peace nothingness brings." And I thought, yeah, because I really don't get into my own belief structure or mythology. Who even knows what to believe anymore, you know? But I certainly don't think there's a sky wizard that grants wishes. I'll say that. But even if we die and there is nothing at all, then I would be okay with that, I think, because in my own experience of being in pain, having been in pain every single day since 2009, when, you know, I almost died in a car accident, nothingness sometimes sounds good, you know? I'm in pain every moment of the day. I have been, you know, for a long time. And I don't say this as a poor me thing. There are videos about it. The first videos ever posted to the channel before this channel became what it is now, when I didn't know what I wanted this channel to be. I just wanted to get my story out. The very first videos on the channel are of that. But I just say it in relation to, I understand the longing and the yearning to not feel a certain way anymore. Be it physical or mental or emotional, whatever you're feeling, you have that longing inside of you to not feel that way anymore. And I understand the not so much romanticized, just the literal base notion of nothing. Because if there's nothing, there's nothing. So there's no pain. And there's, you know, and I'm not saying I would do anything drastic. I mean, I've survived this for as long as I have, and I've hit the bottom of the barrel. I've been underneath the barrel. Trust me. Let's lighten it up. I like when Mr. Nobody goes meta, and he sees the eye, and he's talking to Niles, and he says, "This can't be the end. I haven't even been in the last 2 episodes." I like that this is it's a self-aware. You know, that's why I thought this was made in like the 80s or the 90s, just because it seems like a parody that would come in that time frame. Then we find out they're building a religion to fight back, using the power of flashbacks. Then we meet Dr. Harrison and the corrupt, evil scientist doctor guy is torturing her, and, you know, and he says, "Does your monster have a name?" Jane. Okay. Turns into Dr. Harrison and says, "Does yours?" And there's her name, Mother. And then starts making him want to stab himself in the eye, which, ugh. Then she hears, "Actually, I'm the monster." And that's when Mr. Nobody meets Dr. Harrison. And I like that. I like, again, that the narrator is this presence that people can acknowledge. I like that. I did not expect Ellie to be decreated. I also did not expect the Chief to be back and walking. A line I really liked came from Kip. When the snow globe is picked up, and Kip says, "There it is, stolen from me, like everything else here." And it reminded me of when the play, the marionette play that Fuchs put on. It looked like that the puppet of Niles took something when it left. So I wonder, in that, with Vic saying it's okay to play both sides of the line, I'm wondering if Niles isn't as honorable as he seems to be. He seems, from what it appears right now, he seems to kind of steal from other people. But if he had taken from Kip, why wouldn't Kip take it back? And like, there was obviously some kind of like friendly hostility there. We'll see how that unfolds in the future. And then the part I referenced where Larry was talking with Niles about, you know, the energy being, and Niles says the spirit only feels tortured because you torture yourself. So you don't, like, I didn't think of that. Like, it's not tortured because it's trapped necessarily. It's tortured because it's trapped with Larry. And Larry's torturing of himself to be able to coexist with this being. He's going to have to forgive himself. And that's rough for me because I don't know if he, I hate to say it, I'm gonna sound like an asshole. I don't know if he necessarily deserves forgiveness because what he did was pretty shitty. But I think if in forgiveness he can take ownership of what he's done and acknowledge that he was a bad person who used people who only thought of himself and his own desires, then yes. If there's growth in humility, awesome. If it's just humility for the sake of humility, fuck that. But I think it's going to be the former. I don't think the spirit would, the energy being or whatever would be okay with it otherwise. And then Larry says, I thought Larry Trainor died a long time ago, and this is some fucked up afterlife. And yeah, that hit me because I've thought that as well. Because I hate to feel like I'm beating this dead horse of like what happened to me in 2009. It applies to a lot of like what I go through in my own life. And I've thought that. You know, it was a car accident that I was lucky to walk away from. I'm lucky to walk at all. I was very close to death. And sometimes I wonder that, was I supposed to die? And the reason I don't heal, I won't heal. It's been, 12 years. I'm not healing. That's not normal. Is it because that on that day I died and my physical self can't heal because you can't heal what's already dead? I've had thoughts like that. Did I die? And then I'm just stuck in this, fucked up afterlife. And which is awful to say, the friends I've made and the experiences I've had and being with Justin, I'm not in any way saying that is meaningless or bad. It's not at all. But it's also a torture because you have these friends who want to be friends with you, but then they go away because you can't be the kind of friend they want you to be. You can't go to their house. You can't go to their parties because you can't physically trust yourself that you won't get hurt or you won't get into another accident. It's a hard time getting people to understand the debilitating fear of reliving something. Because I've been, from 2009 to 2014, I was in 4 car accidents. 2009 almost killed me. The next 3 kept setting me back. There's a reason I've not left the house in a long time. I don't even want to say how long because, I'm safe here. Like there are variables here, but I can control them to the best of my ability. Living with unpredictable neighbors, but go out there, anything can happen because it has happened. So sorry again to go on that tangent, but yeah, I thought about it. Is this some fucked up afterlife? Did I get Justin? Did I get the gift of Justin just to be tortured, to not be the person that he deserves? As a person, as a whole person, physically, you are a deficit, but hoping that emotionally and being supportive and mentally and all of that, spiritually, all of that, that's enough in the end. And it's a fear. And that's when it creeps in, is this some kind of messed up hell where you're given good things in order to be tortured for what you can't be? So when he said that, it made me really kind of self-reflect. And then at the end, we get that line from Mr. Nobody. He talks about like the butterfly effect and, chaos theory. He says, chaos theory is so slow. He wants to give it a hand. Dr. Harrison is about to be pretty much lobotomized. I forget exactly what it was, but that's essentially, they were going to like take out the bad parts of her. And Niles saves her. He's the driver in the van, and yeah, he saves her and drives her back to Doom Manor. Then we find out that she's going to have a little idea. It's going to cross her mind in the future. And then she's painting and she says, what the fuck is Doom Patrol? So there we go. So I'm curious what that means. Like, I don't want them to be a superhero group yet. I want them to take the entire season. Honestly, I do. Just take the entire season. Take your time. You have so far. I'm enjoying it. If you need 15 episodes to build towards this awesome moment, build it, because when you drop the moment, it will be holy shit. And I feel like it'll be worth it just based on the storytelling we've gotten so far. And yeah, so we'll see. I just hope they don't rush it because you don't need to. You don't need to. But that is all for my notes. Everything else are from patrons over on Patreon. Very cool episode. as I said, we're taking those baby steps and we're learning more and more. And yeah, lots of conflict going on and the slow build to possible resolution as well. As always, it'll be interesting to see where we go in the next episode and beyond. But that is in the future. For now, that is going to wrap this one up. I apologize again if I went down some dark roads or anything like that. I didn't intend to be melodramatic or anything. Just sometimes something like, you know, clicks in your brain and it opens up the lock and, you know, the door opens and then, you know, the thoughts come out. You know, that's not a bad thing, I don't think. You know, it's catharsis. It's sharing moments and experiences, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's not. So maybe someone out there is going through the same thing you are. Maybe you're going through what I'm going through in some way, and you can identify with that, much like Larry and Rita and everyone there. You know, you're going through something that no one else is going through. I've never met anyone else that's going through what I'm going through the way I am. I've never met anyone else that got injured so badly in a car accident to the extent they did, and then 12 years later, they're still not healed. They have a back condition that no one can identify to get 5 different diagnoses from 5 different doctors, you know? It's maddening. So to be able to like, you know, talk about it, and I said maybe somebody out there can identify with it and be like, oh my God, I'm going through that too. I can, yes. You know, you're not necessarily looking for answers. You're just looking for commonality, someone else. Like I'm doing it again. I'm sorry. I'm going to stop. I'm trying to wrap this up and I'm going down my, this is supposed to be a episodic review thing, not, sorry. We'll stop now. As always, I don't have a fancy outro, so I'll simply say thank you for watching and bearing with me in this one, and I will see you in the next video. Until then, goodbye.